Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and I know. I'm just like a total broken record right here. Well, we got to talk about the Ghostbusters one more time. It probably won't be even one more time, but when shit comes up with this thing, I gotta respond. I gotta call it out because it's a lot of crap, and it's a lot of crap that deserves the calling out of the crap. Right? Let's be fair here. Ghostbusters is probably one of the worst movies of the past 5 years, if not more. And it wasn't even that the movie itself was like horrifically made. It just wasn't good. But the backlash that came from people disliking the trailer is one of the reasons why it's one of the worst films of the past 5 years. Now, Paul Feig, in an interview with Michael Che at the Tribeca Film Festival, talked about it a little bit when asked about, if there's anything he kind of regrets about it. He did say this. He says, "Before Ghostbusters, I had this sort of lovely relationship with the internet. If I could go back in a time machine, I wouldn't read it. The biggest mistake I made was I took on one of the trolls." No, one of the biggest mistakes you made, Paul. Can I call you Paul? Because I sure as fuck ain't calling you Mr. Feig. That requires respect for the person. It wasn't just that you engaged with one of the trolls, right? It wasn't just that. You shouldn't have done that anyway, because engaging with trolls is a futile thing for pretty much anyone involved. But no, you kept doubling down on idiocy. You kept doubling down on what the narrative was that the bloggers were all pushing. Oh, the movie was disliked. The trailer was disliked. Clearly, it's sexism. Yeah, there were some assholes in the comments that were making it sexist, but the majority of people were like, wait a minute, what fresh hell is this? This doesn't look like it looks like Ghostbusters. It's supposed to be Ghostbusters, but something is entirely missing here. Oh, that's right, a soul. The movie's very soulless. But the first trailer, let's just talk about that first trailer for a hot second here. The trailer starts off with 30 years ago, 4 scientists saved New York City. Except that's not true now, is it, Paul? No, it's not. It wasn't 4 scientists. It was 3 scientists and a regular dude. That dude is Winston Zeddemore. Okay, he is kind of the point of view character for the audience in the last half of that film, at least. He becomes the central point simply because we're meant to look at this through his perspective of, I'll believe whatever you want as long as there's a paycheck, right? That is the character that is Winston Zeddemore. He's not a scientist. Yes, later on I believe in the animated show or one of the comic books, he goes to night school and gets his PhD and becomes a scientist. But in that moment, he isn't. And even in Ghostbusters 2, he isn't. He's just a dude who puts on a vest and fights ghosts because there's a paycheck, right? That's the entire character. Anyway, and Sony, I know Sony did the marketing, right? I know Sony did. So that they changed it the next day, right? They changed it the next day on the international trailer to say 30 years ago, 4 friends saved New York City. See, that's more accurate, right? 4 friends. But the dislikes were there. The dislikes were there. And here come the chest-beating white knights of the movie blogosphere claiming that if you dislike the trailer, you are sexist. This is what they said, Paul, and you know they said it because you doubled down on it. You used that to your advantage. You tried to make your movie about identity politics, and here it is nearly a year later. And you still can't acknowledge that you dropped the ball. That you played the game and you lost because you knew that not everyone who disliked the trailer or was critical of the film was sexist. You know this, but it didn't serve your better interests at the time to acknowledge it. You chose to follow in the path of Devin Faraci, right? A moralizing virtue signaler from birth, movies, death, the former editor-in-chief, Paul, who, guess what, was a big advocate for your film. Big advocate, huge advocate, right? Huge advocate, if I'm to quote our president. Where is he now? Oh, that's right, Paul. He had to quit his job in absolute disgrace because, of sexually assaulting a woman in New York City on the dance floor. Funny, huh? Funny, isn't it? That one of your biggest champions turns out to be a sexual assaulter, right? Accused, alleged, right? But he's still, the point is, not everyone who hated the movie was sexist. In fact, the bulk majority of people aren't sexist. I went to your film at the 7 p.m. show on preview night, much to the anger and hatred of my audience, who was very much like, what are you doing? Why are you giving Sony money? And I did it because, man, I thought I could be wrong. I thought I could be wrong about your movie, and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. I went in there hoping I was wrong. I went in there just begging to be wrong. I wasn't wrong, Paul. Even my girlfriend, who's a huge Melissa McCarthy fan, walked out of that movie and the first thing she said to me was, can we get our money back? Trust me, I've taken her to some bad movies, and she has never said that. She fucking hated it. She even sat there with me to watch the extended cut while I was doing it for research, and she didn't care for it again. Is my girlfriend a sexist? Is my girlfriend a misogynist? The answer is no. You just didn't make a good movie. Then you double down on it. You say, well, the movie has to make $400 million to be profitable. Didn't even come close to that, really. Then, of course, you double down and you blame the trolls for the movie not doing well. Okay, fine. Even though the movie is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, complete with a fresh score that's under 60%, makes no sense to anyone who looks at Rotten Tomatoes. Since when is under 60% considered fresh? You have movies that are 65% that have a rotten score. So something fishy in rotten in Denmark in that particular case. Then the movie comes out on home video. It does well the first week. You champion it out there. You go out there, you thump your chest. Ghostbusters is doing well on home video. Which then brings up talks of a sequel. So you say, no, the only way for this movie to get a sequel is that Holtzman fans have to come out and purchase the movie. Support Holtzman. Why not the other ones? Why not Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig and Leslie Jones? Why is it Kate McKinnon's character? Is that the one that had the best impact? Is that the one that most people seemed to like the most, even though she was utterly nonsensical and made really weird decisions that really didn't further the plot along? Actually, not a lot in that movie did further the plot along. Hell, you guys captured one ghost, let it go, it killed Bill Murray, and then you never catched anything else. You never caught anything else. Nothing. What ghosts did you bust in that movie? None. Ultimately, Ronan fell into a fucking portal at the end. You shot him in the dick so you could further a fucking dick joke. That's the movie you made. But my favorite little bit of this, Paul, is when you came out and you tried arguing that the merits of the film were lower, that it wasn't made as well as it could have been made, because people like Ivan Reitman, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, probably Ernie Hudson, probably Sigourney Weaver, probably Rick Moranis, all get royalty payments from Sony as a result of that. And a large portion of the budget went to paying royalties, again, deflecting from the fact that you had a poor film. Now, I could go on and on and on about this movie until the end of time, and I will fully admit, and my audience will definitely agree with me here, I have probably focused on this film a little bit too much. But I stand by my criticisms, my continued criticisms. Because for every person out there that listens to your nonsense bullshit when it comes to this movie, I want them to go looking and to come across what really happened. I want them to come looking and see that Sony didn't even bother to talk to Ray Parker Jr. I want them to find Midnight's Edges videos where Sony leaked emails showcase that Amy Pascal openly worked with you to keep Ivan Reitman out of the conversations for the production of this film, right? To keep him away from making sure that people like you didn't fuck it up. I want more people to know how much you royally screwed this franchise. And it's not that there were 4 women in the lead. Christ, no one really cares about that. In the long run, no one really cared. People only began to care when it was told to them that the only reason why they don't like the movie is because of the 4 women in the lead. Never mind the fact in the first 10 minutes of the movie, there's a queef joke that really does nothing for anybody. There's so much dumb, dead-end humor in this thing. You make the villain out to be a cartoonish MRA. The only thing he wasn't wearing was a fucking fedora. And at the end of the film, they finally get the damn house. It's I get it. It's a reboot, and you could have done okay with this if you would have made it your own thing. And that again is your problem. You know, you went into this thing, you clearly didn't want to make it. You clearly didn't. You were probably only making it because Amy Pascal wanted to greenlight it, and she probably said you could make whatever you wanted afterward. But here we are. Almost a year later, this controversy has slowed down, it's died. But you got to go running your mouth again. And every time you run your mouth about this piece of crap film, I'm going to be right there to remind you how badly you screwed it up. Because I want you to know, Paul, that while I respect you as a director, what you accomplished here was something that should be looked at by every up-and-coming film school student for how not to promote a film, to how not to engage. Because the only persons that destroyed this movie from doing well in the box office were you. Because you jumped on the identity politics train thinking it would work, thinking you would rile up the female moviegoer base and they would come out in flocks to see your movie. All while insulting the original fans who grew up in the 80s, who maybe happen to be dudes, who just like the film about 4 friends busting ghosts. If you would have made a movie about that wasn't full of just nostalgia every fucking 15 minutes, full of dead humor, badly written characters, maybe, just maybe, you would have had a success on your hands. But we'll never know that, will we? And if we're lucky, you'll never touch Ghostbusters again. And I'm pretty sure at this point you don't want to. You know, and that's okay. That's for the best. Stick with what you do. And this is, I'll leave this on a positive note. Stick with what you do, Paul. Okay? What I want you to do is make Spy 2. Make Bridesmaids 2. Make The Heat 2. You do well with subversive humor in your films. You take a concept and you turn it on its side. But you tried that with Ghostbusters. You tried that with a 3-decade-old, well-beloved franchise, and it bit you square in the dick. You have no one here to blame but yourself, and no matter how many times you try to blame everyone else under the sun, people like me will be there to remind you that this is your fuck-up, and your fuck-up alone, and it's something you need to acknowledge.